It's time for that weekly mod. We interrupt our regular Sunday evening episode for breaking news. Gibson is bringing back the rejects. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. 3 years ago, Gibson brought back the Korina style 58 Flying V, as well as the Explorer, to many of collectors' delight. However, those weren't the only two introduced in that golden period of Gibson. You can never forget about the prototype Explorer, now known as a Futura, or the fabled Gibson Moderne, where there's only rumors of where an original one might even exist yet today. Apparently, these are just joining the regular lineup. This is early teasing by dealers at this point, nothing official on Gibson's website. So let's take a look at the Futura. It's an acquired taste. It's essentially before they got any of the dimensions to be attractive, in my opinion. Even though these are like a really weird thing within Gibson's history, I've never been a big fan. But I'm pretty sure it's been about since the early 2000s since they've ever tried these. But most of the previous reissues of this styling have just been mahogany bodies. And to help make them a little bit fancier, they would either give them a really nice natural finish, or they would try to soup it up in some other way, like 3 humbuckers. Or super sparkly and or metallic finishes, like we're seeing here. So it appears this newest release is actually going to be the Korina style. I don't know the story of the cream knobs, maybe that's what the originals had, and they made some sort of a new discovery here. But I was not excited for this until I saw the headstock. What on earth is going on there? It's not because it's the split fork. That design actually did make it onto some of the original Explorer bodies as well. But the Gibson logo on it has like a black triangle over it, and that is really appealing to me. Because I personally have never seen that before, but going back to like the only good vintage photo of one of these, sure enough, the headstock's blank and has this triangle shape. Then if we go to the back, yeah, it's about what you would expect here. But it looks like the serial number is EXP for experimental, and then the number. But that one's gonna be $10,000, and Cream City's Reverb listing says it should ship at the end of this year. But you can't talk about the Futura without talking about the Moderne, and they're bringing that one back too. Now that one's actually even had Gibson USA releases. I believe they're AMS exclusives, as recent as 2019. However, they also did them up in the 80s during the Heritage series. It was just the Futura that didn't get a reissue at that point in time. I would say these are an acquired taste, just like the Futura. However, more people can get into the Moderne due to its weird, freaky history and strange Gumby headstock. So let's see what this new release is rocking. Again, the Korina body seems to be natural, with the creamy knob, still has that white pickguard. And yeah, surprisingly enough, they went for the Gumby headstock again. It's basically a reissue of the 80s version, but I'll be interested to see what they fine-tuned, because this one's also $10,000. And oh my goodness, they actually have the nickname directly in the description. That looks like a copy and paste from Gibson even. So if anybody's interested in new guitar daying one of these, feel free to reach out and we can get your unique guitar on the workbench and get its own special review and demo. But now let's get to the mod collection. USA MOD Collection is the only one that updated this week. With Black Friday and the weekend, Thanksgiving, all that stuff, I thought we would have some crazy deals. Like, they do have this holiday deals thing, which pretty much translates off to 15% off some of the exclusive finishes, as well as the ones that aren't selling as well. And they've got a whole bunch of apparel that is also on sale. The only deal that struck me as like, oh wow, was all the way down here in the accessories. I've never so badly wanted an ES339 in my life. $100 for one of their cases? It's just sadly it's not that common of a model to find without a case. So I can see why they're blowing some of their overstock inventory out. But if you have one, and it has a gig bag, like one of those ES339 Studios from 2013, this is a phenomenal opportunity to take advantage of. But we did have 6 new offerings, starting with 50s Farmhouse Whitewash for $3,400 USD. Whitewash is correct. Seems to be a Les Paul standard that they put gold hardware on and gave it a really flat white finish to it. But you still have your creamy binding, so it matches the new knobs they threw on there. And hey, check out your poker chip, ultra white as well. Not exactly a matching headstock per se, but they did spruce up your truss rod cover. And ooh, no fret nibs on this one. And creamy button tuners. But the back, they gave the Moto backplates with a little bit of a red satin stain. But look out, we've got the space turtle on the loose. Cerulean Space Turtle to be exact. You've got bejeweled knobs, a really obnoxiously tortoise-shelled pickguard. But there's a few different ways you can look at that. You know, the whole Space Turtle theme, the sparkly blue going everywhere. It's like you're in space, just really well lit. In an enhanced colored photo. Really, we call these things tortoise-shell pickguards, so a little bit of artistic liberties there. Or maybe it's even referencing something I don't understand, but the back is just completely matching with the new sparkle blue. And then it looks like the headstock is just black, but does that look not as long as usual to anybody? But then they threw on the pearloid tips just for fun and gave it that new Mod Collection decal. Nice, those are actually locking tuners. We've seen something like this before. It's the SG Supreme Longboard Burst. I'm not sure if this one's a re-upload or just a similar take on the design, but what we've got going on here is kind of a neck-through vibe to an SG. If you want to see a real neck-through SG, they do exist. They just have 12 strings on them. You can check it out in this episode. But this one's just all coloring. Let's brighten it up so it's a bit easier to see. The two outer edge layers kind of have a rustic cherry mahogany color to it, whereas the center stripe is a very dark mahogany. Offset by two stripes of what looks like natural red natural. So a lot of masking going on during the finishing process, but I think it turned out pretty fantastic. And then we've got the cream plastics, no pickguard on this model. Super 400 inlays just to be extra fancy with stripes. They spaced it apart just a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen the neck be this exact same mahogany brown. But at the same time, I do appreciate that red burst finish, and then the headstock gets all bursted over. And they do have the black area right here to break it up, so that actually was executed very well. I was suspicious of a black stinger, but looking at this photo, doesn't look like it, just your bursted patterns. As far as the face of our headstock, I'm surprised they didn't mess with the multicolored chandelier thing like we've seen before. Then here's a fun one this week. Scary Black Friday, I guess. Custom Cranium Imaginarium. Hasn't found a loving new home yet for $6,400, but it's an Access custom. You've got the HP style knobs, Floyd Rose, all chromed out, including your switch tip. And then you just got your not so friendly looking Skeletor guy over here. But it has like a red border around it, so it stands out and it's not just completely black and white. I appreciate the art styling of that. It's something that we haven't seen Gibson toy around with too much lately. Now don't get me wrong, this does officially exist, as does this, with the top looking like that. But this skeleton just has a completely different look to it. It's like he's laughing evilly. I can dig it. In fact, I'm kind of surprised they didn't like put one on the truss rod cover or something too. But very shocked to see a more natural infused back. And it appears to be a satin finish even. But if you look closely, you can see your Gibson MOD Collection decal. They decided to put it a bit lower than usual due to the apex head carve. And that's a very shallow inking of our new serial number. But this 59 reissue might be my favorite one this week. They called it Abalone Shoals. I'm curious how this translates in person. Is it a color shift effect, or is it just a static color? Like, is this area always going to be purple? Is this area always going to be yellow? Or do they have a pearlescent blue coat over it? Like, you can kind of see right here, the light is against it. This could either be really cool in person, or a bit of a letdown, and it's hard to tell from the photos. But you will notice a reissue routed out for a Joan Jett style kill switch down there. You've got your regular 3-way toggle switch over there. No pickguard, thankfully. That is a beautiful quilt top. It's kind of one of those ones that treads the line between both, but is definitely within the quilt family. But do we have a matching headstock? No, and they stole our truss rod cover again. But we've got the double ring inclusion tuners. And oh, kind of a aquamarine-ish blue back. It does look like it's going to be gloss, but just TV style, so you can still see the wood grain. That's fun. It's marked as DS number 252. And then they decided to play with the ES330 with Maroon Night. That actually ended up selling for $3,800. At first glance, looks like they changed the knobs a bit, removed the pickguard during the refinish, and it's just, as the title states, a dark maroon color that's going to have a lot of color shift depending on your lighting. Headstock has nothing on it, and looks like a satin black back with an open pore finish on the neck. But the top is full gloss, don't worry. But, oh, okay. That's not one of the new ES330s. That's a repurposed Slim Harpo Lavelle. That explains why it sold. But now the EU side of things, they did have a Black Friday banner, but it basically just took you to all the same offerings that the Gibson USA one. Also having it on did indeed include some of the European mod collection items. They took it off right away. I believe it's around 15%. So if you're in the areas where they can ship, feel free to check it out to see if anything catches your interest. Now, Gibson Demo Shop, I already told you they did an update, which is surprising, but again, it's a holiday week. They weren't breaking the backs of their employees. But what shocked me is no sale this year. Just some of their old 2-3 month inventory had 15 to 20% off. Not everything in the shop like in the past. But that's all I have for you guys for tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.